Have you ever been caught between a rock and a hard place and you don't know what to do and how to act? And at the end of the day, you come up with the most foolish idea and it worked? So it is with David in this Psalms chapter 34. As we're going to see, David acted foolishly like a madman when he was in the clutches of Achish, and God delivered him. Good morning, saints, and welcome to the Dixon's Devotion with Pastor Dixon. Today we are going to be looking at Psalm chapter 34. Now, Psalm chapter 34 is a psalm of continuous praise, but this psalm was written by David when he ended up into the arms of Abimelech, and he acted like a madman, and God delivered him. Now, David, in that situation, he was in the clutches of the enemy, and he decided to act like a madman. He really degraded himself. He acted like a madman, and Abimelech let him go. Now, to the Philistine, David was a big capture. But when Abimelech caught him and he acted like a madman, they said, this man is a madman. This man cannot be a king. So as a result of that, David was delivered. He really acted foolishly, shamefully, but yet God used that for his deliverance. Now, when he was captured by Abimelech, we need to know the word Abimelech really is not the name of a person. Abimelech is a title. Abimelech is a title of the Philistine king. A Philistine king is known as Abimelech, or the Abimelech, like how the ruler, the leaders of Egypt was known as Pharaoh. Now, really, the king at the time was Achish, but they call him Abimelech. Now, you can see this concept in Genesis chapter 20 verse 2 and 26 verse 1. Now, the backdrop to this story is found in 1 Samuel chapter 21 10 to 15. Now, as I said, David is in the clutches of Achish, and his title is Abimelech, and he acted like a madman, and God delivered David. Now, this psalm is also acrostic. Acrostic means it's an alphabetical psalm where each verse begins with a different Hebrew letter. But one of the Hebrew letter is missing, and that is wow. You can also see this in between verse 21 and 22 where both of them are together. And what happened also, Sheen is not there. The use of acrostics, as was mentioned before, is for memorization and also for emphasis. And David used every letter of the Hebrew alphabet to express his emotion, and God in the Holy Spirit allowed David to do so. Also, Psalms chapter 34 is one of the two psalms that David wrote when he was in the clutches of Achish or Abimelech. Psalms chapter 56 is the other psalm. Many people will blame David and say, why David acted like this, acted like a fool, even below the standard of a believer, acted like a fool. But David was in fear, and he knew that Abimelech would have destroyed him because David was a big catch. And if you look in the passage of 1 Samuel that was mentioned before, you could see David was identified. They even said, isn't this not the Israelite who they shouted, Saul killed his 1,000, but David killed his 10,000? So he was identified. Achish would have destroyed him. So David acted the fool. So they could say, this can't be the man who acting like that. And as a result of that, in fear, David acted, as some commentators said, below the standard of a believer. But yet God delivered him. And out of the clutches of Achish, where Achish allowed him to go, David penned these words, not giving credit to himself to be acting like a fool, and said, oh, my good acting allowed me to be saved, but David recognized it was the hand of God, in spite the way he acted, delivered him. Don't blame David. How many of us, when we're in fear, we act totally different than being believers? So don't blame David in this. Be too hard on David right now, because we don't know what we will do, how we will do when we get in certain situation. Only grace of God. But here God used David's stunt to deliver him, and here David ascribed all the praise to God to allow him to be delivered from his enemy. Now back to the text. We will go through it as we look at it from the acrostic point of view. Now verse 1. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. That's Aleph. David saying, because of how God delivered me, he said, all time I will bless him. I had to act the fool, but yet God see to my foolishness and delivered me. Now bet, my soul shall make her boast in the Lord. The humble shall hear thereof and be glad. David is saying, look, my soul shall boast in the Lord, how God delivered me, even though I acted like a fool. And he said, the humble shall hear thereof and be glad. David was humiliated. He acted below the standard of a believer. He acted like a fool. He embarrassed himself. He humbled himself, and God delivered him. Now, Gimel. Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. David said, people come magnify God with me to show you how God delivered me. I should have been a dead man. I was in the clutches of the enemy, but God allowed me to be delivered. Dalet. I sought the Lord, and he heard me and delivered me from all my fears. David was fearful. That's why he acted like a fool. And as I said, don't blame David too much. We don't know how we will act when we're in certain crisis. We wish to God we do the right thing. But here, David acted like a fool, but yet God delivered him. He said, I sought the Lord, and he heard me, and he delivered me from all my fears. Fear could make us act in ways that we would not imagine under normal circumstances. The next Hebrew letter, they looked unto him and were lightened, and their faces were not ashamed. David said, I looked to God and I was lightened, and their faces were not ashamed. Those who trust in God, even though David acted like a fool, God caused his face to shine through his deliverance. Now Zion, this poor man cried, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all his troubles. He said, this poor man, I was the poor man. I was in a situation where death was staring in my face, but yet God delivered me from all my troubles. The angel of the Lord encampeth round about them that fear him, and delivereth them. You see, a lot of time we fear the situation, but our greatest fear should be God. When we fear God, God is going to be our greatest strength and our deliverer, even though we are surrounded by enemies. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man that trusted in him. You want to know what is good? Taste God. Oh, taste God, especially when you're in a sticky situation, or when we say in our terms, in a sticky wicket, or when we caught between a rock and a hard place. What shall we do? David was in the hand of Achish. David was running from Saul. Saul was coming at David to kill him. He ran into the enemy camps, the Philistines. So David was in a rock and a hard place. If Saul, go back to Saul, the Israelite, he will be caught and be killed. He went into Achish, he will be killed. But he chose to go into the enemy camp, and God delivered him. Now look at it this way. He was between a rock and a hard place, but God delivered him. He ran from Saul, his people, God's people, and find refuge and safety in the land of the enemy. You see, sometimes God uses our own enemy sometimes to be our shield. And here, this is what happened to David. He was in a rock and a hard place. And the Bible said the angel of the Lord encompassed around about them that fear him and delivered them. Yod, oh, fear the Lord, he is saints, for there is no want to them that fear him. Fear God. Once you fear God, there is no want. David learned his lesson. What David should have done is trust God, and he would not have acted the fool. God would have delivered him. David find out, you know what? I acted the fool and God delivered me in spite of. I come to learn this lesson. I will fear God all the time, no matter what the situation, and let the Lord deliver me. Calf. The young lions do lack and suffer hunger, but they that seek the Lord shall not want any good thing. Here is the young lion himself suffer hunger. They that seek the Lord shall not want of any good thing. Once you seek God, once you trust God, once you put your confidence, your fear in God, God is going to deliver. Trust God. Lamed. Come, ye children, hearken unto me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. He said, come children, listen to me. David didn't know he's a counselor. From his experience, listen to me. I could tell you this. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. Now David have the experience when he can teach people how to fear God. And in our situation when God delivers us, we can use them as teaching moments to others. Mem, what man is he that desireth life and loveth many days that he may see good? All of us desire life. All of us want to see many days. And it's a question, all of us. And he's saying, you know what? If you want to do that, trust God. None. Keep thy tongue from evil and thy lips from speaking guile. He said, look, God will keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking guile. In other words, when you find yourself in a jam, you tend to say things, you tend to operate like the crowd, you tend to try to fit in like the crowd, and everything like that. God is saying, David is saying, no. Even in our situation, God will keep our tongue and stop, and we will not be able to say things that will end up we regret. God will keep our tongue and we will not say things that we will end up regretting. Shamet, depart from evil and do good, seek peace and pursue it. David saying, hey, don't do like me, act like a fool. I learned my lesson. God delivered me in spite. Depart from evil, don't do good, bad, do good, and God will deliver you. Seek peace and pursue it. In whatever your situation you do, seek peace, pursue it. Iron. The eyes of the Lord are upon the righteous, and his ears are open unto their cry. The eye of the Lord is upon the righteous. Don't think when you're in the situation God has abandoned you. God's eyes is upon you. He is watching every move. Even when you get caught between the rock and the hard place, God's eye is upon you. And God will move those rocks and those hard places and give you a safe path through. Even though David acted like a fool in front of Achish, he was between Saul and Achish. God allowed Achish to tell him, go, you act like a madman. And God make a path where he can go through that rock and a hard place. P. The face of the Lord is against them that do evil, to cut off the remembrance of them from the earth. What he's saying here, look, trust God, man. You try to do evil, God is going to cut you off. Always stand for truth. Always stand for right. Zadi, the righteous cry, and the Lord heareth, and delivered them out of all their trouble. The righteous cry, God heard him and delivered him from all his trouble. Kof, the Lord is nigh unto them that are of broken heart, and saveth such of be contrite spirit. Broken and contrite heart, God will not despise, as we read in Psalm chapter 31. Broken and contrite heart, God will not despise. When you're broken in your situation, God will not despise it. When you're contrite, God will hear and deliver. Resh, many are the affliction of the righteous, but the Lord delivered him out of them all. We as Christians, we are not exempt from trouble. There is this teaching going around, this prosperity going around, that you ain't supposed to get sick, you ain't supposed to be poor, you ain't supposed to have trouble. But not so, not in the economy of God, because we are sinful people living in a sinful world. Many, on the other hand, are the affliction of the righteous. We, the righteous, we are going to be afflicted. Many, it said, if they're gonna come, they're gonna come. Many are the affliction of the righteous. It is said, either you're in a storm, or either you're getting out of a storm, or you're getting ready to go into a storm. But many are the affliction of the righteous. But when the affliction come, look at it. But the Lord delivered him out of them all. In other words, God get glory to our affliction so that we can trust him. We can see the power of God when we go through this affliction and how he delivers us. We cannot understand the power of God without going through some trials and we're going through some difficulty and see how God delivers us. When our backs is against the wall, when we're between the rock and the hard place, when we have no strength, nothing we can do to deliver ourselves, and we see God deliver us, then God is glorified, then God is honored. That's why affliction comes, so that we can put our trust and we can see the work and the power of God. We can see God and experience God parting our Red Sea. Shin, he keepeth all his bones, not one of them is broken. God is going to protect you. He's going to deliver you. Not one of your bone will be broken. And this is also messianic with Jesus Christ. When they took him down on the cross, normally when you're on the cross, if you're not dead, they will break your bones so that you could die. But Jesus Christ died before, so they did not break one of his bones. Tau, evil shall slay the wicked, and they that hate the righteous shall be desolate. The Lord remembereth the soul of his servants, and none of them that trust in him shall be desolate. In other words, God said, evil shall slay the wicked. The wicked, remember David was running from Saul. Saul was pursuing him. David ran into the enemy camp. God shielded him in the land of the enemy. It's Psalm chapter 23, he said, thou hast prepared before me a table in the presence of my enemy, and anointed my head with oil. David was in the presence of his enemy. Gath. Goliath was from Gath. Achish was from Gath. David killed Goliath, ran into Achish camp in Gath camp. David was identified by one of Achish's servants, but David acted the fool and God delivered him. The Bible said the angel of the Lord will encompass you and protect you even though you're in the land of your enemies. And the Bible said the evil shall slay the wicked, and they that hate the righteous shall be desolate. In other words, God would isolate the evil. Those people who are going to be evil, God will isolate them and make them desolate. You know what is a desolate? When you're in a barren place. People who try to do evil, God isolate them and they make them desolate. They become standalone. Nobody wants to be around them. They are isolated. The Lord redeemeth the soul of his servant, and none of them that trust in him shall be desolate. In God is not going to desolate you. God is not going to put you out of the way. God is going to protect those. You will shine and people want to gravitate to you. So trust the Lord even in your difficulty. When you are caught between a rock and a hard places, trust God. Saints, have a wonderful day, and may the Lord's blessings be with you.